There is a bus in Philadelphia which SEPTA doesn't talk about. It is not listed on the website as either schedule nor route. It drives the city in a pattern known only to its driver and perhaps not even him. Its electronic reader board never displays the number, only SEPTA. People who know it call it the zero, the random bus, the wandering bus, or just a bus. It's not a bus for people who know where they want to go. It's a bus for departures. The bus has a way of showing up when you are at your lowest. You will hit a certain point, feel a disconcerting crumble in an inner place you thought solid, like a hand crushing an origami box. Just then you look up to see the bus a block away. You will always need to run for it, but just a little bit, just enough to show you need it. It will wait. There is an automated voice. It does not say Route 40 service to second and Lombard. The bus does not deal in those specifics. It says only service from and the name of the intersection you were standing at. The doors clunk open. You get on board. The doors hit shut and the bus moves on. The driver does not ask where you want to go, but many passengers tell him anyway, just drive. Pay fare if you can. If you can't, the driver will nod, with eyes covered by his blue hat, and you will nod, and you will head to your seat. And the shifty and the shameful and the shameless ride Philadelphia's buses, but most of them are trying to get somewhere. They want to see someone, or acquire something, or get to a place by a time. The wandering bus is not for them. Its riders are the people who need to leave wherever they are at that moment. Just leave. The bus goes anywhere. Has been seen in West Powelton and Grand Hospital and Center City. It drives down past Young and Haverford and Dauphin. Most people don't notice the bus because it isn't the one they're looking for. If your heart is bright and your spirit buoyant, it is likely that you have never seen the bus. The wandering bus serves a wider clientele than you might think. The flaying businessman, the addict's sister, the questioning reverend have all ridden on the bus, even a mayor and a police chief and a manager of the Phillies. There's no conversation on the bus. What's more, when you get off, you cannot recall who was on the bus with you or how crowded it was. You remember only that you sat by the window and watched the city slide through your translucent reflection. At some point, you were moved to pull the cord and disembark. One night, your feet hit the pavement, the bus passed away, and you found yourself near to where you needed to be. Folks say that some people have ridden the bus for years on end. Others predict that the bus will one day leave the city, taking its passengers with it. A woman who knew many things said there was a wandering bus in every city she had ever visited. There are even a few who claim if you ride the bus long enough, you'll one day be dropped off back before your troubles began. But those people are never on the bus when they say it. The haunted house in Tom's River is making headlines in New Jersey. Renters have been scared off. A reporter has a mysterious voice recorded during an interview in the home. Unfortunately, I do not have a file of this recording, but you can find it online just by searching. Is this voice a ghost? Staff writer Eric Larson interviewed the family at the house they say is haunted. When he transcribed the visual recorder, he discovered an unidentified child's voice. Tom's River, a house. No one among the living may ever want to reside in the house at the corner of Lowell and Terrace Avenues again. That is the feared landlord has filed a new complaint in state superior court against a couple who fled the 3-bedroom ranch in the middle of the night after living there for just 1 week because they say the house is haunted. Dr. Richard Lopez, the well-known orthodontist in Ocean City who owns the property, has filed a lawsuit against the family in the amount of $15,000. Among other issues, he contends they have stigmatized the property and diminished his abilities to rent or sell the house in the future. The story has received international media attention since it was first reported in Asbury Park Press on April 13th. Jesus Chinchilla and Michelle Kellen are engaged to be married, moved into the house March 1st with Kellen's teenage daughter and 6-year-old son. After the family settled in, they said they would come home and find their clothes and towels ejected from the closets and strewn over the floors. Doors would creak open and slam closed in unoccupied parts of the house. At night, footsteps would be heard from the kitchen after everyone was tucked in, and an unintelligible whispering seemed to fade in and out of thin air, according to the couple. The first disturbing phenomena, they claim, was the sound they heard through the vents to the basement, the muffled din of something being dragged through the cellar. The family left the house March 10th and moved to a motel room in Point Pleasant Beach, where they have been living since. After Chinchilla claimed he felt an invisible hand on his arm, and then saw a sheet slide off the bed on their own. Collins said that at the same time she saw a dark apparition in their bedroom. The family has since filed a lawsuit against Lopez demanding that he return their $2,250 security deposit, claiming he had at first verbally agreed to release them from their 1-year lease and refund the deposit after the couple told him about their experiences. But on reflection, Lopez later had an official assistant call Cullen to explain he had changed his mind. The matter is on hold while the family and Lopez consider an offer to air their case on the television program The People's Court, which has offered to cover all fees and judgments regardless of who wins if the parties agree to sign a contract to settle the matter on the show, Cullen said. David A. Semenchik, attorney for Lopez, said real estate agents acting on behalf of his client will be legally bound in the future to disclose to all prospective tenants that previous residents claim the house is haunted. Plaintiffs have made claims concerning the property which are unfounded and which have led to media attention. Lopez's counterclaim reads, Upon information and belief, the value of the property has decreased as a result of plaintiff's action and statements. Kellen said her family has been hurt by the attention too. She said she understands that there is a large part of the public who have either read about her family's ordeal or have watched them on television programs such as ABC's Good Morning America, and have posted some flattering comments about them online. Why would we make up such a story? Cullen asked. We left a 3-bedroom house for a 1-room motel 1 week after moving in. We spent $2,000 on new furniture from Value City. We paid $4,000 on a security deposit and rent after moving in. For what, 1 week? The Mothman is a creature reported in the Charleston and Point Pleasant areas of West Virginia between November 12, 1966 and December 1967. It's described as a winged, man-sized creature with large reflective red eyes and large moth-like wings. Sometimes it appeared to have no head, with its eyes set into its chest. On November 5, 1966, 2 young married couples from Point Pleasant, David and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mollett, were traveling late at night in the Scarberry's car. They were passing the West Virginia Ordnance Works, an abandoned World War II TNT factory about 7 miles north from Point Pleasant, in the 2,500-acre McClinton Wildlife Station, when they noticed two red lights in the shadows by an old generator plant near the factory gate. They stopped the car and reportedly discovered that the lights were the glowing red eyes of a large animal, shaped like a man but bigger, maybe 6.5 or 7 feet tall, with big wings folded against its back, according to Roger Scarberry. Terrified, they drove toward Route 62. The creature supposedly chased them at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. However, as quoted in Keel's The Mothman Prophecies, the Scarberries, despite driving more than 100 miles per hour, claimed to have noticed a dead dog on the side of the road, and in fact made such accurate note of its location that they claimed to have gone back the very next day and looked for it. Explanations for how they are able to make so accurate a mental note of time of such great distress, or why they would go back to look for the dead dog was not included in Keel's book. The following night, on November 16th, Sarah and its town people combed the area around the TNT plant for signs of Mothman. Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Wemsley and Mrs. Marcella Bennett, with her infant daughter Tina in tow, were in a car and were out to visit their friends, Mr. and Mrs. Ralph Thomas, who lived in a bungalow among the igloos, concrete dome-shaped dynamic storage structures erected during World War II, near the TNT plant. The igloos were now empty, some owned by the county, others by companies intent to use them for storage. They were headed back into their car when a figure appeared behind their parked vehicle. Mrs. Bennett said that it seemed like it had been lying down, slowly rising up from the ground, large and gray, with glowing red eyes. While Wamsley phoned the police, the creature walked onto the porch and peered in at them through the window. On November 2nd, 4 people allegedly saw the creature flying over the TNT area. On the morning of November 25th, Thomas Urey, who was driving along Route 62 just north of the TNT, claimed to have seen the creature standing in a field, and then it spread its wings and flew alongside his car as he sped toward the Point Pleasant Sheriff's Office. On November 26, Mrs. Ruth Foster of Charleston, West Virginia, reportedly saw Mothman standing on her front lawn, but the creature was gone by the time her brother-in-law went out to investigate. Further on the morning of November 27th, the creature allegedly pursued a young woman near Mason, West Virginia, and was reported again in St. Albans the same night by 2 children. A Mothman sighting was again reported on January 11th, 1967, and several times that same year. Fewer sightings of Mothman were reported after the collapse of the Silver Bridge, where 46 people died. The Silver Bridge, so named for its aluminum paint, was an I-bar chain suspension bridge that connected the cities of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Cayuga, Ohio, over the Ohio River. The bridge was built in 1928, and it collapsed on December 15, 1967. Investigation of the bridge wreckage pointed to the failure of a single I-bar in a suspension chain due to a small manufacturing flaw. There are rumors that the Mothman appears before upcoming disasters, or that the Mothman causes disasters. Further note, Mothman was the subject of a movie called The Mothman Prophecies, which did a more modern take on the Silver Bridge disaster, taking place, in the early 2000s instead of 1967. A woman was sitting on the subway late one night. She noticed that the woman sitting across from her was staring intently at her. She pretended not to notice, but each time she glanced at the woman, the staring continued. At one of the stops, a new passenger got on and sat next to her. After a couple of minutes, he quietly told her he thought she should get off the bus at the next stop. Knowing the next stop was a busy one, she agreed. When the next stop came up, she left the train with the man. The man said to her, "Thank God I didn't mean to scare you, but I had to get you off that train. The woman sitting opposite you was dead, and two men either side were propping her up." After the Civil War, Fairfax County, Virginia became more populated, and eventually an insane asylum was built there. No one wanted to live near the asylum. Because of the public outrage, the institution was shut down. The administration transferred the patients, and in 1904 the process was completed. During the transfer, some of the patients escaped and hid in the surrounding woods and forest. These individuals were lost, delusional, and dangerous. Most of them were found except Marcus Loster and Douglas Griffin. The local authorities found a trail they believed belonged to them, littered with half-eaten, mutilated bunnies. The trail led deep into the woods to a tunnel bridge crossing a wide creek. There they found Marcus hanging from the tunnel entrance. There was a note attached to his foot that said, "You'll never find me, no matter how hard you try. Signed, the Bunnyman." That tunnel has been called Bunnyman Bridge ever since. Legend says that if you walk all the way down the tunnel around midnight, the Bunnyman will grab you and hang you from the entrance of the bridge. Strange deaths and phenomena have been connected with the Bunnyman Bridge. There was a young man from Clinton, Virginia, who came upon the bridge while traveling. Later he killed his parents and dragged their bodies into the woods to hang them from the bridge and then killed himself. In 1946, 3 teenagers, 2 men and a young woman, went to the Bunnyman Bridge for Halloween night. The 3 youths were found dead, hung from the bridge with their bodies slashed open, all with notes attached to their feet saying the same thing: "You'll never catch the Bunnyman." In 2001, after hearing the tale, 6 local students and a guide searched the area. They found mutilated bunny parts during their search and left the forest after they heard noises and saw figures moving around in the woods. There are other variations to this story, but this is the most well known, so it's the only one I will cover. Note, since I cannot pronounce the creature's name, which in German is Der Grobman, or I believe that's how it's pronounced, which is German for tall man, I will just refer to this creature as the more popular name, the Slender Man. Alright, I will begin. The Tall Man or Slender Man is a legend on which something awful forms a few years back as part of a photo manipulation contest. Now the photos were faked. However, the supposed creator of the Slender Man reported later on that he cannot even remember posting information regarding the Slender Man in any way. Some other people claim to have seen or heard about the Slender Man long before in their lives, or in legends dating back to the medieval period in human history, such as Germanic folklore concerning Der Grobman roaming the Black Forest, Der Schwarzwald, and snatching away children who disobeyed their parents. Myth goes on to state that the tall man was possibly a child molester who was strung about the trees as punishment for his crimes. His spirit is said to have survived and continues to prey upon the young. The tall man is generally depicted as unusually tall. He can grow to different heights, capable of blending in with the trees of a forest. And completely bald figure sporting a business suit with either a red or black tie. He has no eyes, nose, or ears, and has a very wide grin running from one side of his face to the other, or no mouth at all. In some cases, he is reported as having a hat, tentacles, or multiple limbs sprouting from his back, which he uses to ensnare his prey. What makes Slender Man so fearful is that his existence is questionable. He may be real, or he may not be. Perhaps the majority who have encountered the tall man have never lived to tell the tale. In fact, fear for Slender Man may actually manifest him into reality, creating a bridge between fact and myth. The tall man is commonly spotted hiding and lurking about in the fog when stalking his figures. Slender Man usually befriends his children victims, acting as an imaginary friend of sorts, is capable of luring them into forests at night with psychokinetic powers. From then on, the children walk mindlessly into the branching arms of Slender Man as he grins at their young faces, never to be seen or heard of again, a fate unknown. Some say these children are eaten, taken to another dimension, or quite possibly worse. Again, the myth varies. Slender Man is said to be careful of slowly driving victims to madness, can induce paranoia, give coughing fits to them, and can induce disorientation and dizziness, amnesia, and insomnia. He is even said to be capable of visiting them in horrendous nightmares that vary from person to person. Such victims are slowly driven to insanity by Slender Man and are soon incapable of thought outside the realm of his fear. This induced insanity is said to weaken victims, making them more susceptible to his control. He loves to toy with his prey before finishing them off. In some cases, victims become mindless minions for Slender Man, working to bring in more victims to him for satisfaction. These minions may plant listening devices in your home, follow you around without you being aware of it, and watch over you, even as you sleep. Some say he can teleport and appear at multiple locations at the same time. In some myths, he is able to store electronic equipment. Quite possibly Slender Man is some electromagnetic entity. Think you can kill or ambush him? Think again. With his psychokinetic powers, Slender Man can deflect bullets and other objects away from his body before impact. Ambush would also be quite impossible. If you've seen Slender Man, it is most likely that he is closely watching you and all your actions. Failed attempts to strike at Slender Man with a weapon may be met with him obstructing your nervous system and disabling bodily functions, making it even more easy for him to finish you off. Again, it is not known exactly what happens once a victim has finally been taken by him. Some say they simply disappear. In more gruesome accounts, the victims' bodies are found impaled on tree limbs with their organs placed through their bodies in plastic bags. The most frightening possible fate may be that Slender Man extends his fingers to great lengths, punctures the bodies of victims, and destroys every major internal organ they have from within, tying them up from the inside into a great slendery and bloody knot. Remember, the thought of Slender Man may bring him even more closer to you. Trying to forget about him will also lead him to you. Once you see him, there is no turning away from the possibilities of events which await you. Those slender shadows you see moving about in the dark of the night, or that tall misshapen tree in the distance, may very well be Slender Man, watching, waiting, grinning all the while.